Hi, hello, my name is Gomer Joseph. I hope you've all been having a great day so far. Welcome back to another True Crime Tuesdays video. If you are new, I welcome you. Before I start, I'd like to thank you all for subscribing. By God's grace, I finally reached at least 100 subscribers. I'd like to thank you all who have been with me since I started making these true crime videos almost a year ago. Lord willing, we can get to at least 100 more subscribers pretty soon. Today, I'll be discussing the unsolved murder of Sandy Long. As I was researching this case, I wasn't expecting it to be so filled with all these twists and turns, family tension, scandalous, so filled with secrets, so filled with betrayal. I also advise you to not only look at this video, but to also do your own research with this case. Here we go. Sandy Long was born on July 14, 1967 to parents George and Helen Harold. She did have two sisters, one named Judy and another named Joyce. Now, unfortunately, Judy did lose her life in 2013. Sandy was described as a woman who was funny, full of spunk, loved to have a great time, loved cooking, people loved being around her. She did have a big family who she was close with. They were all close with one another. She just loved being around loved ones and was described as a generous woman. Sandy did have two daughters in a previous relationship before she married her husband, Louis Long. On November 30th, 2010, it was just like any day. Sandy left home early to pick up a disabled client of hers. She was last seen by her aunt, Annie Chase, who did live nearby where Sandy lived, as they said goodbye to one another. Later on, the client would send a message stating that Sandy never picked them up. Louis would get word of this, and he stated how it worried him since Sandy had never done something like this. She would have at least stated she wasn't able to pick up the client if she wasn't able to. Louis and Sandy's family were at the house wondering where she was. Eventually, they would receive the news that would gravely affect their lives forever. That afternoon, hunters arrived at the Maryland State Park and pulled up next to a car, noticing a woman inside who was laying in a strange position. At first, they thought that she was sleeping. Unfortunately, they would find blood on the vehicle, and they eventually knew that this woman was dead. Sadly, this woman was Sandy Long. When police arrived, they realized that there was no sign of robbery, but they would realize that the cause of death was by stabbing. As police were investigating this case, they believed Sandy knew her killer. The theory is that she saw someone she knew on the side of the road who looked like they needed help, but that this person turned on Sandy and killed her. This is a theory that her family agrees with. Even though Sandy was known as a generous person, her family knew that she wouldn't have just gotten some random stranger in her car. Since police wanted to know who killed Sandy and had this theory, they began to question the people in Sandy's life. As always, the husband is the one that police look into first, so they did question her husband, Louis, who police would eventually rule out as a suspect. What gets weird is that further into the investigation, it was discovered that Kiana, who is Sandy's oldest daughter, was not getting along with her stepfather, Louis. Kiana was basically stating how she would be inappropriately touched by Louis, which is something Louis denied. And if you're wondering what Sandy did about this, Kiana said that, she didn't really do anything about it because all she wanted to do was keep the family together. I'm not saying that it's right if Sandy did in fact do this, but that's what Kiana stated that her mother did. Not only that, but Sandy had been having an extramarital affair with another man. This went on for a year, then Sandy decided to end it. Louis claims that he never knew Sandy was unfaithful. police would meet up with Sandy's lover. They found out this man was married himself. He was cooperative, he was cleared, and because of that, his wife never knew that her own husband was unfaithful to him. Like, to this day, his wife still might not know that her husband was unfaithful to her with Sandy. But of course, God sees all things, and all things will come to light. As if Sandy didn't have enough secrets in her life, she took out a life insurance policy for her daughters only because she wasn't sure if Lewis would take care of them since he's not their biological father. Her sister Joyce would be the one who Sandy would have trusted to take care of her daughters if anything ever happened to her. When DNA evidence got involved, which was taken from Sandy's steering wheel, it showed that not only did the DNA evidence belong to Sandy, but also someone who was a part of Sandy's family, whose name was Sandy Weems, who is her brother-in-law, who is married to her sister Joyce. Now, to be clear, the DNA evidence doesn't specifically connect Sammy to Sandy's murder, but all the DNA evidence showed was that he was just in the car. This must have caused some type of conflict in the family, having this man who is your brother-in-law and, having the DNA evidence in some form of relation to Sandy's murder. It must have made this family wonder who they could really trust, and that's just so devastating. Sandy would explain that he's been in the car before since he had to back it out of the driveway, but the forensics lab believes that there's more to his story. Sammy didn't agree to take a polygraph test, but his wife Joyce did agree to take one. Police wanted to speak with Sammy's brother, who did live on the same road Sandy took the day that she was killed, but Sammy's brother and even other relatives of Sammy didn't want to speak with the police. If you didn't think this case was crazy enough, Kiana, Sandy's oldest daughter, was asked to take a polygraph test, which she agreed to, but failed, and Kiana states that, this caused the lead investigator, Sergeant David Sexton, to basically accuse her of killing her mother. That's all I've gotten from this case. If you do know anything about Sandy's case, you are encouraged to call 911 or 1410-535-2880. Those numbers will be placed in the description box. This really has to be one of the most insane, complicated cases I've ever covered. It's crazy how there's so many people in Sandy's life who possibly could have wanted her dead. Like, why do you think someone would kill Sandy? Do you think, who do you think killed Sandy? Do you think it was her husband, her lover, her brother-in-law, or even her daughter? Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section. Now, even though Sandy was loved by many people and was described as a generous woman, she wasn't a perfect person. Now, none of us are perfect people. We're all sinners in need of a savior, who is Jesus Christ. Despite what craziness Sandy had in her life or was a part of, she shouldn't have been killed at all. She shouldn't have been killed the way that she was. Even though it's almost been 10 years since her life was taken away from her, she has people who were in her life who miss her dearly and demand answers. The God that I serve, the God of the Bible, is a God of justice, and he will make sure that justice is served. I thank you all for taking the time of your day to watch this video. If you did like this video, please feel free to hit the like button. Once again, if you have any thoughts on this case, please leave your thoughts in the comment section. If you'd like to see more videos from me, please feel free to subscribe and click the bell to be notified about the next video. If there's a certain true crime case that you'd like me to cover, please let me know. And I'll see y'all for the next True Crime Tuesdays. I'll talk to y'all later.